Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. On this week's program, we continue our ongoing conversation on mental health in rural Kansas with a professional that talks matter-of-factly about many of the questions that you may have and that there is always hope. Walt Hill is director of High Plains Mental Health Center in Hays. Also on the program, we'll have features from the Kansas Soybean Commission and Kansas Department of Agriculture, and our weekly updates from the Kansas Livestock Association and Paragon Ag Advisors. The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919, kfb.org. Kansas Wheat Commission, leading in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online, kswheat.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future of Kansas corn. Online, kscorn.com. And agricultural news from agview.net. Kelsey Olson has been named Assistant Secretary of Agriculture at the Kansas Department of Agriculture. She began serving in the new role the first of the month. Olson will assist in leading the agency by serving as a liaison between the agency and industry stakeholders, as well as assisting the Secretary by attending and participating in meetings and events, as well as participating in regulatory and legislative policy deliberations, then coordinating special projects and incentives of KDA. She comes from the ag industry and grew up in Norton, attended Kansas State University, where she earned a bachelor's degree in international agribusiness and a master's degree in agricultural economics. The National Farmers Union says the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement could be improved to reduce health care costs and protect rural jobs before it is sent to Congress for final approval. A letter was sent to Speaker Nancy Pelosi as well as House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. Farmers Union President Roger Johnson emphasized the value of trade agreements to agricultural communities, but farmers, he said, are becoming more dependent on off-farm employment. And Johnson is urging congressional leaders to include any proposal to address labor, the environment, as well as strengthening enforcement standards. He also is expressing concern about the implications that the USMCA could have for rural health care, as it would grant pharmaceutical companies marketing exclusivity for biologic drugs for a minimum of 10 years. Johnson says that provision could even worsen the problem of increased health care costs for farmers. Johnson says all Americans should have access to effective health care, but given the added risks of agricultural professions, particularly critical, he says, that legislators work to improve the coverage and affordability in rural areas. And the National Biodiesel Board launching an advertising campaign highlighting the economic damage that the biodiesel and renewable diesel producers are having from the EPA's small refiner exemptions. These ads running in the nation's capital as well as in Des Moines, Iowa. The ad says simply, the president's EPA is hurting farmers and eliminating jobs by giving special favors to big oil. NBB contends that the small refinery exemptions destroy demand for hundreds of millions of gallons of biodiesel and renewable diesel. That means a loss of jobs and a loss of value for agriculture. You can find more ag news online anytime at agview.net. We'll have more coming up. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web, oldeseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. Kansas Livestock Association, supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com. And Kansas Grain Sorghum, growers working together. More at ksgrainsorghum.org.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
What if U.S. soybean oil were an industry sensation? If end users started asking for it by name? That future is here. The time is now. To meet customer demands, the soybean checkoff is investing in varieties that produce oil with increased functionality. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
And joining us is Walt Hill, the Executive Director of the High Plains Mental Health Center located in Hays, Kansas. And Walt, we've been a series here talking about mental health and the importance that it is, especially focusing really on agriculture, agribusiness, right. Rural Kansas. So let's, I know during the middle of winter, it seemed like every day the sun didn't shine, but right. Once spring came and the sun shined, all our attitudes got a whole lot better. And so let's talk about that. I mean, every day is a new day, and we don't want to be Pollyannish about right. This, but if you think there's a real bad situation, there's folks that can help, and things can get better.
Absolutely. The most important thing is that there is hope and there is help. If you get to the point that you think things are hopeless, that's when you really need to reach out. And other people around you very well may know that and see that. Sometimes it's hard to hear that from people like your spouse, who may say that and it feels like, oh, they're just on my case. You're probably already feeling kind of bad that you aren't doing what you need to do, and have someone remind you is tough, but it's important to listen to that. That if someone raises that, if you see someone who is not sleeping as well, seems more worried, has trouble with concentration, sit down and talk to them about, hey, how are you doing? What's happening with you? This is normal. A lot of people experience this. What if we go talk to your doctor? What about, sometimes a pastor is very good. Somewhere there's hope for you, and this isn't going to last. It doesn't last for everyone. It doesn't have to last, and things will be better at the other end of this tunnel that you're feeling in.
It is, I know, especially in agriculture, we get so focused, and the farm or the ranch is such a part of our identity. But over 20 years ago, I left the farm, and that kind of change in identity, there was a lot of challenge to get to be the guy that wears, kind of dress shirts now every day, right. and it was, and it took a long time, but it also takes friends and family and that ability to maybe be a little vulnerable. Absolutely.
One of the things that I see is we've changed. When my great-grandfather homesteaded, his family lived within a quarter mile, and you had people around all the time. People are more isolated. The more isolated you are, the more vulnerable you are to believing that there isn't hope. So it's important to be around friends, family, church, go to activities. That being out on your own is not the solution. But you're more and more driven in the modern farm environment, that you're out there on your own with that GPS on the tractor. Mm-hmm. You don't see anyone all day. You need to have that contact, and you need to hear what people are saying to you. And if you get to the point that you feel like your hope is diminishing, even when the sun comes out particularly. You know, turn to someone, your doctor, your pastor, your spouse, a friend, call a mental health center, call a counselor, and just say, hey, I'm not sure if this is right. I don't know if this is normal. Can you give me some thoughts on this?
How can folks get a hold of you or a member of your team here?
We, here at High Plains, we cover 20 counties in northwest Kansas. We have offices out to Goodland and Colby. All they have to do here in 20 counties in northwest Kansas is call 1-800-432-0333. Across the rest of the state, every county has a mental health center attached to it, and you just look up in your phone book or on the internet for your local community mental health center. You can also check the website for the Association of Community Mental Health Centers of Kansas, and they have all the mental health centers listed with the contact information.
Okay. Walt Hill, who is Executive Director of the High Plains Mental Health Center in Hays, has joined us. Stay with us. More coming up. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Kansas Wheat Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. And AgView.net, covering news and views in the Beef Belt and Western Corn Belt. Reliable and relevant, AgView.net.
My name's Karen Cope, and I have multiple sclerosis. I heard about the stem cell research with the Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center. Before we decided to do that, I had cognitive testing done. After the stem cells, I had the cognitive testing completed again, and the results indicated that I had a 6-point increase in my cognitive abilities. It was like somebody had taken Windex and washed all the fog off my brain, and so I had the concrete, validated information that stem cells work.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and LibertyLink that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
And joining us is Walt Hill. He is the Executive Director of the High Plains Mental Health Center in Hays. And we've got a series talking about what's going on in agriculture and particularly mental health and why it's so important. And so, Walt, in this segment, I want to kind of talk about the process. And so the first step, I think, is, you know, when you get to that point where, you know, I need some help. Something isn't quite right. So, do I call you or another center directly? Do I go to the doctor? Maybe I don't go to the doctor very often. Do I tell, you know, just what happens?
You know, there really is no wrong answer, no wrong door. The important thing is to reach out to someone. The second most important thing is if that one door doesn't work, try another one. So go into your pastor, to your family doctor, a friend, or call your local mental health center. When you call a counselor, typically we will set up a time for you to come in and sit down and talk with us about an hour about what's happening, what kind of maybe symptoms you're having of depression, what symptoms of anxiety, to help understand what's going on and maybe gets in the way. One of the big problems with depression and anxiety is it begins to shut down your ability to think about options. And what we want to sort through is how bad is that depression or anxiety that's closing down your ability to think about how to think through your problems and come up with solutions. So you talk with a counselor. It's not like the people imagine where you come in and you notice I don't have a couch here in my office, kid. You come in and talk like this. We would ask you some questions about symptoms, what's happening, stresses you're experiencing, any family history with depression or anxiety or substance use. And then come out, if there's a mental health issue going on, we'll talk to you about that and what could be done about that. It may be some talk therapy, Sometimes it's medication to help readjust the neurotransmitters in your brain that get affected when you're under so much stress. It gets to the point that you need a rebalancing of what's called the serotonin system with antidepressants to get things back stable. It's kind of like stabilizing pH in a farm pond or something. So we work on setting up a treatment plan.
So is there kind of a boilerplate treatment plan, or is it all kind of depend? It may be a couple of times, it may be ongoing, or?
It really depends. Sometimes it's a few sessions. Sometimes someone comes in and they think something's terrible, and we say, no, that's fairly normal and you're doing a pretty good job. And maybe some suggestions. Sometimes it's 4 or 5 counseling sessions. Generally, we try to stick to 4 or 5, then see where things are at. We may refer you to a psychiatrist or a nurse practitioner to look at some medication. Sometimes we may ask you to go see your family doc because there may be some other things going on physically that may be getting in the way with medical concerns, thyroid problems, hypertension, diabetes, various kinds of things. So it really is individualized based on what we hear, and the most important thing is you give us the full picture so we can give the best advice to you about what we think is best to help move on past this point.
It's Walt Hill, who is Executive Director of the High Plains Mental Health Center in Hayes. We'll have more coming up. Agriculture information on your computer or mobile device. News and views on grains, livestock, policy, and opinions from newsmakers can be found by liking AgView on Facebook, and on Twitter, follow AgView News, a reliable and relevant source, agview.net.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
Last August, when the first cases of African swine fever were announced in northeastern China, it was immediately clear that the global pork sector, and every industry that competes with or supplies it, would be affected. A recent report from CoBank notes that China accounts for half of the world's pork consumption and production. The country is dealing with a virus that is incredibly difficult to control, especially in a production system that relies heavily on backyard producers. There's no question that China's pork industry will contract, but it is yet unknown to what degree and for how long. It is certain there will be significant implications for the U.S. animal protein and feed sectors. There are a few scenarios with both opportunities and challenges for how the next 12 months and few years could develop that would reshape U.S. agriculture significantly. The effects from African swine fever's spread to China and Southeast Asia will be far-reaching. The U.S. animal protein sector will benefit, CoBank concluded, barring the virus's spread to the United States. U.S. feed demand likely will shrink in aggregate, and those focused on China likely will be hurt the most. Elevators, crush plants, and feed mills positioned to meet animal agriculture's needs, either here or abroad, may benefit, however. Learn more from the International Marketing and Animal Agriculture sections of kansassoybeans.org on the web.
Agriculture information on your computer or mobile device. News and views on grains, livestock, policy, and opinions from newsmakers can be found by liking AgView on Facebook, and on Twitter, follow AgView News, a reliable and relevant source, agview.net.
What if sustainability were synonymous with U.S. soy? If energy efficiency, water quality, and soil health help define U.S. soy's value, that future is here, the time is now. To meet end-user demands, the Soybean Checkoff is committing to sustainability that's achievable, worthwhile, and enduring. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
It's time to make your plans to attend the 4th Annual Governor's Summit on Agricultural Growth, which will take place on Thursday, August 29th. The Ag Growth Summit has become a highlight of the year for agriculture leaders from across the state, as a day full of networking, collaboration, and conversation with farmers, ranchers, agribusiness owners, and industry professionals from throughout all corners of Kansas agriculture. The day will include interactive sessions designed to promote action and engagement as the Kansas agriculture community works to create an environment that encourages growth throughout Kansas in all areas of agriculture. Everyone who is committed to working for agricultural growth in Kansas is welcome at the summit. The first 3 years of the Ag Growth Summit led to the development of desired growth outcomes in each of 19 Kansas agricultural sectors and action plans to achieve those outcomes. This year's summit will focus in on those growth outcomes and action plans as attendees work together to develop strategies to overcome barriers and encourage growth. Breakout sessions will again focus on the specific sectors, from beef, corn, and wheat to dairy, food processing, and animal health, as well as on industry-wide topics that affect multiple sectors and agricultural communities across the state, including international trade and rural prosperity. Registration is now open for the summit and can be found at agriculture.ks.gov/summit. There is no cost to attend, but we ask that you register by Thursday, August 15th to guarantee lunch at the summit and dinner at the social on the night before the summit. Find out more about the Kansas Ag Growth Project and more details about the plans for the 2019 summit at agriculture.ks.gov/growag. We'll see you at the summit.
Agriculture information on your computer or mobile device. News and views on grains, livestock, policy, and opinions from newsmakers can be found by liking AgView on Facebook, and on Twitter, follow AgView News, a reliable and relevant source, agview.net.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Premier Farm & Home has what you need to make your lawn the best in the neighborhood.
Hi, I'm Ken. We choose Premier Farm & Home for the professional look that we do ourselves.
Feel free to stop in. You can also visit our website at heycow.com.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
The time of year has arrived when the combination of high temperatures, elevated humidity, low wind speeds, and high solar radiation put livestock at risk for heat stress. To help producers be aware of and understand weather conditions that could adversely affect livestock health, the resource section of KLA.org has a link to daily heat stress maps from the National Weather Service. The maps estimate general stress level trends for livestock over the forecast period. Veterinarians and animal scientists suggest steps to mitigate livestock heat stress include additional water access, removing winter windbreaks to increase airflow, providing shade, using light-colored bedding, and incorporating feeding schedules that avoid the internal heat buildup animals experience with normal digestion. Avoiding the intentional movement of animals is recommended as well. Wetting pen surfaces and animals can be effective if done in a manner that doesn't increase humidity, using large droplets, not a fine mist, to saturate the hair coat is recommended for maximum cooling. Research shows a variety of factors affect the heat stress vulnerability of individual animals. Black animals are more susceptible, as are those that are more excitable. An animal that has been treated for pneumonia in the past has a higher risk of heat stress than others. Finished cattle in confined facilities also are among the most vulnerable.
Agriculture information on your computer or mobile device. News and views on grains, livestock, policy, and opinions from newsmakers can be found by liking AgView on Facebook, and on Twitter, follow AgView News, a reliable and relevant source, agview.net.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and LibertyLink that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
Kim Mannering with Hardy Insurance. Today we will talk about umbrella coverage. Did you know that if your cattle get out, you could be held liable for that? Call me. Let's have a discussion. 316-945-6733.
Hi, Zach Goat here with Paragon Ag, and I'm here to talk about the cash grain markets. Corn basis has been strengthening here in the past few weeks. Bids have been rolled into the set board, and many buyers did so, giving away most, if not all, of the 6-cent July set spread. The weather conditions have improved quite a bit, and the corn crop continues to progress. USDA had corn silking at 8% countrywide, 14 behind the 5-year average of 22%. Getting into the heat of the summer with the strongest heat yet to come, being behind in pollination could lead to additional stress to the corn and knock some bushels off yields come this fall. USDA estimated corn condition to be 53% good to excellent, 1% better than last week. Soybean basis has not been doing much lately. If anything, it may be slightly stronger after rolling into the August option month. USDA estimates that 90% of the planted beans have emerged and around 10% are starting to bloom. They have rated the bean condition to be 53% good to excellent, down 1% from last week. The country is currently in a gut slot wheat harvest, but that has been slowed by the scattered showers throughout wheat country. USDA estimated harvest to be about 47% complete, 14 behind the 5-year average. Reports that I have been hearing is that the wheat yields are pretty good. There are some lower test weights out there and elevators are dealing with, and protein is running low. Sprout damage has not been an issue so far, but could develop if unharvested wheat receives regular heavy rains. If you have any questions or are looking to sell something, give us a shout at 888-452-8751. I'm Zach Goat with Paragon Ag. Have a great rest of your day.
Well, that's our show this week. Be social with us online, KansasAgReport.net. Like us on Facebook at Kansas Ag Report Television Show. Follow us on Twitter at Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Agriculture information on your computer or mobile device. News and views on grains, livestock, policy, and opinions from newsmakers can be found by liking AgView on Facebook, and on Twitter, follow AgView News, a reliable and relevant source, agview.net.